Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Charlie and Cara Show. And once again, we're so excited to dive into just another amazing topic that is hopefully going to be really helpful, really healing, and just really connected. So following on from last week, which is, for those of you that listened, was all about anxiety, how we can sit more with our peace, let go of the anxiety.
Overcoming overwhelm.
Yeah,
too.
exactly. And just being more, like, not letting it dominate and dictate our lives, and actually getting to grips with it a bit. So it's not just, we're not rushing around like crazy anxious people all the time, like me. So this episode is all about intuition and inner peace. So
Beautiful.
So beautiful.
Yeah. I'm excited as we bring it back to you and like your true self. And really, hopefully over the last weeks, you guys have learned a lot, released a lot, uncovered and shifted like some of those more negative things that might be showing up. And this week is all about bringing you back to your true self, to your center, and finding your power, like really tapping into the incredible being that you are.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. So for me and for those of us that aren't necessarily that connected to their intuition, I know we all are very intuitive. This is going to be an episode where Cara guides us through, how we can connect and listen to our bodies more and find that inner peace, regardless of the chaos around us, regardless of the external circumstances that feel really scary or out of our control, that cause a lot of unsettlement, whatever the word is, and anxiety. That's a word. We can make up words. Yeah. I mean, every word is technically made up anyway from years ago, so we can. Just really learning to calm the mind and just have that inner sanctum and that cozy feeling that we can bring ourselves even when everything around us is mad and out of our control. And I think from my perspective, I've struggled with intuition for a long time now because I really, as you've probably gathered, have been a very heady person, stuck up in my mind, overanalyzing, needing to know everything, figuring out life, really over questioning the whole thing. And
go.
Yes.
Because you're up there
exactly.
so much.
So exactly that. So a constant distraction up there. And of course, if we're up in our heads, we are not operating from our bodies and our hearts, which is where the real strength and peace and joy is. So I've been operating from a very egoic place. Like the mind is the ego, at least as far as I know. It's definitely similar.
Yeah.
So all kind of similar to me. But it's definitely a very, hamster wheel behaviour.
Yeah.
So you're always just going round and round and round and never really feeling peaceful.
Gonna piggyback off that.
Yeah,
also.
piggyback away, baby.
Like never being present, right? And that is what intuition and connecting to your body as well as your soul brings you back into that present moment. Whereas the head and our mind space takes us either into the past or the future, anywhere but here. It's just like in those places. So when you're connecting back into your intuition, it is that, I love what you said, that inner sanctum, like you're coming back home to yourself and just being here.
And that's the only real anything that can give you that peace is you.
Totally.
And it's so ironic that we look for it in everything else but ourselves sometimes, in other people, in comfort, in partners, in validation, and actually that is all just the moving target where it's just this temporary fix, when you may get this quick fix and temporary peace or reassurance from someone, or oh, thank God I feel better now they've said that, or now this has happened. But actually, and something I'm still in the process of learning, the only person that can really give it to ourselves, including, for instance, closure in a relationship, even to that degree, is ourself. And that means that we have all the power to be there for ourselves, even if we have no other power around us. And I just love that. So thank you for reminding me as well about the past and present, because that is such a big one, is constantly, I know so many of you out there like me are always reaching and excited about the future, planning it, trying to secure it so you feel safe, so that you've got an action plan, dwelling on the past so that we don't make the same mistakes again, obsessing over the past where we beat ourselves up. We should have done this differently. We could have said that, even down to things like I know a lot of people do this too, and I was very relieved to find this out. It wasn't just me. That after a conversation with someone you like or a business chat, you obsess over it. You replay it over and over in your head to see what you wish you could have said differently. Yeah. So everything but the present, like you said. So that's such a good point. And I would love you to lead this with how we can connect to our intuition and start learning to trust ourselves and listen to our intuition for the first time. Because a lot of us actually are years into life. Yeah. I know some of you have nailed it, so not talking to you lot, although everyone could do with like deepening and like learning more. But just, for those of us that don't know how to listen to our intuition and kind of are just struggling to discern, is that my fear in my head talking, or is that my intuition? How do we identify that, and how can we get better with listening?
So definitely every single one of us, as you said at the beginning, we all are very intuitive beings. The way I see it is just that layers have built up over top of that, right? And that's why those past struggles, that's why the anxieties, the fears, all those things are so important to clear out, because as long as those are really weighing down and dictating your reality, they're creating all the noise that's taking you away from your intuition. So your intuition, then that true self, that inner peace, has been there your whole life, but it's been drowned out by everything else. And so now we're clearing so that you start to be able to see and hear, this actually feels better to me, or this is the path that I should take,
or something's not
called,
right,
something's wrong. Exactly. So being able to tune in and hear that, and that's where the discernment does kind of come in around, like, is this fear because of a past experience and I'm like afraid it will happen again? Or is this like a gut instinct, that inner feeling, that knowing of like, something's not right?
So I find that so challenging to tell the difference right now. And I know with practice it will get better and easier, but that is a hard one.
Yeah, and I think that's where the awareness around our beliefs is so important, because as long as you're living from an old story, then you're giving those things more power than your intuition and then your connection to yourself.
So do you mean so keeping our beliefs in check? So for instance, if we're running an old belief system, like that this means this, or we're not good enough, that's going to automatically just drive all of our thoughts and decisions.
Yes.
Whereas if we keep ourselves in check and are aware of our beliefs, we can then choose to change them. And that way we have a better, I'm processing as I speak.
I know, me too. I'm
that way, I know you were smiling at me, and I'm like, I hope this is making sense. So like that way you can then be like, well, I know that I let go of that old belief. This is the belief I choose, and I've still got this off feeling. So therefore it's probably the gut.
There is a feeling, there is a reason for it.
Ooh, that makes sense. Whereas if we're constantly just running that old thing, that old pattern in our head and that old fear, it's going to always feel like the truth, even if it's not. It's so ingrained in us, and it's become a natural pathway in our brain, a natural neuro pathway as they call it, that we're like, okay, well, it must be the case that I'm listening to my brain because... And can I just give an example?
Yeah, and I have an example
after. Yeah, no, go for it. No, you go, because I talk too much.
Maybe it's going to be the same. Will it be the same one? I want to give an example. Charlie and I were just in Barbados, and you have some past experiences of things that went really wrong there, and really feeling unsafe, like some really traumatic events. Yeah. Now, it's normal that would create fear, and that would create certain beliefs around your safety. Yeah. However, there were times where I would say, from my perspective,
I was paranoid as shit.
Yes. Yeah. How do I say this politely? You were taking those fears and basing the current reality around them. Yeah. Versus it wasn't necessarily like an intuitive feeling of something's not sitting right with me right now that I'm picking up on, and that's what I'm trusting. It was more all of these old stories and past experiences
circulating and dominating
are taking over and making me feel really fearful. And so that's where coming into that awareness and that connection of where are these things coming from. Like, as you become more connected to your intuition and less in your head, it does become really easy to feel like, no, this is a feeling, this is a knowing. This is a
real danger right here, as opposed to like a perceived old school threat. Because this has happened
before, I'm really scared that this might happen again. And so now I'm going to pick up on the signs and create the belief that it could be happening. So your brain is going into safety.
Right. And then you're so in it, then you can't even discern anything, because you're just so run away and caught up with the fear and anxiety of, it's going to happen again, this is unsafe, that you're not only buying into it completely without any awareness of like what's the actual fact right now, but you're also just, you can't possibly listen in that state.
It's just so powerful how our minds create that for us, because then the more you get into that, the less in tune with your body you are, and you're more just in this fight or flight mode and in all the stories from before. So then you're not able to reground yourself or bring yourself into the present, where you're actually like, hey, you know what? I can actually look around and see this room. I can see these things. I can bring other pieces of the story into play. Versus just like that one piece.
So actually calming down and considering the positive outcome, like this is one possibility, but it could also be this, whereas I got carried away with that one and only.
And once you bring yourself back, then you might still notice, you know what, this still isn't sitting right, off. And there's still like a feeling in my body, or I'm getting this kind of this other knowing that's coming in and saying like, something's not right here, then that is your intuition. But if it's really just fully coming from your head or your past or your fears, then that's when you kind of can discern that maybe this isn't actually my intuition coming through.
Totally. And I can't wait for the day that I have that discernment and like really feel like, you know what, that's just an old fear, and I feel actually fine right now, and like having an accurate depiction, an accurate perspective on what's in front of me, rather than just creating stories completely fabricated. Like, I am not going to lie, the amount of that was not just a one-off, as I'm sure you know, in Barbados. Unfortunately, and I'm so thankful that we're doing this work and bringing this awareness in, and then sharing it for all of those that are like me. Because it's terrible. I mean, it really has dominated a lot of my vacations, holidays. I've spent too long in America. And how I see things, and it interrupts the fun and the joy, because I'm constantly on guard of like, well, this went wrong before, so this is going to happen again. So then I go into survival and protective mode, as opposed to freeing, trusting, enjoying what's in front of me. And it rubs off on people too. I've had it rub off on my ex-partner, I've had it rub off on you, where when someone is that fearful and carried away in their stories of fear and scarcity, it does rub off on people. And ironically, it creates more of that. So like if let's say you're uncomfortable around a bunch of men at nighttime or strangers in the dark alleyway, if you're totally, I'm not saying to encourage this, but if you're feeling like really grounded and calm and just trusting, it is less likely going to happen, because just like sharks smell certain things, animals smell fear and they sense that. So then you are making yourself more vulnerable because you're so scared. People are picking up on that, and then you're more likely to be vulnerable. So
and that's where I'm trying to think even where to bring this back to, but with your intuition, really the more you create this awareness and connection back to yourself. So that could be through movement, that could be through breath work, that could be through meditation, through yoga, through just like anything, being out in nature, anything that's helping you ground back in and connect not only like physically to yourself, but also bringing in that spiritual piece and connecting to your soul, which could be through that's anything that feels like exciting, aligned, passionate, like where you're just in your flow state. Any of those practices are going to help you reconnect deeper and continue to strengthen that intuition.
Definitely. And it's such a practice, isn't it? Like you have to do the work in order to access that more and more, because it does take that discipline to learn how to still the mind, learn how to not get distracted by everything around us, learn how to listen inwards. You know, how many times has everyone heard that, like, listen to the inner voice? And I'm like, what the, you know, in the past, like, what the hell does that even mean? How do I even listen to my inner voice? Where is the inner voice?
Or which one is it?
Which one? Yeah.
Maybe the thoughts are one voice and it is very loud. And then the other inner voice, your intuition, is different.
They always say quieter, it's more calm and subtle. And
it is a constant practice, and that's where, even for me, like when we were in Barbados, as you know, I wasn't doing my meditation for a few days, and I was becoming a little bit less grounded and more in my head. Yeah. And then when I started to go every morning and sit back out there to meditate again, it immediately helped me to reconnect to my intuition and all the things of like, oh yeah, like I am so supported. We are supported. We're doing
trusting
these things
rather than scared.
Yeah, you know, there's actually a lot of amazing things going on that we weren't able to see because we were so focused on the other things. Charlie cracked her back.
I just stretched and I just like crunched my breastbone. What's this part here called? Sternum. Yeah.
That was loud.
That was really loud, and that's not even the loudest one. Oh. You'll hear it one day.
Crazy. Yeah, anyway. Body talking.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, when we have those practices that do allow us just to reconnect in whatever way, then you'll notice you get those divine downloads. You get more clarity around the right path and around what actually feels good to you versus what is my fear telling me. Yeah. And I think that is the huge shift.
Yeah. And that living by that level of trust and just like you said, knowing you're supported, trusting that everything is happening for you and you're going to be okay, listening in and trusting that you'll know when to leave a situation, when you are in danger, when something's not right. That is such a beautiful, again, that's something I admire in other people that have really like mastered that or really improved in that and kind of own that, because I'm like, wow, like what a gift to be able to have that level of confidence and trust within your body, a relationship to yourself and your own intuition. It's so powerful.
I think one amazing thing is when you start to feel that, use that as validation every time. So like when you start to find yourself in your head again, it's like, hey, remember that time? And I've shared this on other podcasts about the reframing or the mind movie, like bringing in that empowering story. Yeah. So reminding yourself, hey, like remember that other time? You know, maybe you're stressed at work or something about a job thing or a relationship, and you're like, I was in my head, but I brought myself back and I trusted and I had this intuition come through, or this divine download, or this sign, whatever you want to call it. And I trusted that, and actually things worked out the way they were supposed to. Yeah. So every time you have one example of that show up, use that. Using that as validation.
Success story.
Like, ooh, remember how that worked last time? So if I embody that again now, and bring myself out of my head, even though it's hard, but I bring myself back, then like what is possible for me? And
it's an upward spiral, right?
Exactly.
And to add to that, whenever I've been convinced, and this is the example I was going to give earlier, so whenever I've been like paranoid that, oh my God, my dad's really, really late from work, back. He's taken the car. He said he'd be back at this time. Something must have, exactly. Or something to do with the boyfriend, like, no, I know that he's done this, or he's fallen in love with this other girl, or whatever it is. And I've been so convinced of it, and in every piece of my body, it feels like a knowing, or like a...
Yeah, so strong.
So strong, exactly. And then, sure enough, when I look back at all those things, you know, touch a giant bit of wood. Yeah. It hasn't been at all what I thought it was. Huge assumptions. And I'm sure one day, it's a numbers game, you know, one day eventually something, you throw enough mud against a wall, one will stick. Yeah. But just in general, all the times I've thought something's definitely going to happen or happened, and it hasn't. You know, and reminding myself of like, well, you were convinced about this then and you were wrong, or you assumed this and you thought it was 100% and it wasn't. And so it's similar to what you just said, reminding yourself if you are freaking out about anything in any area of your life or with work. Yeah. Just remember like, well, I've had this thought before and it felt pretty real and it wasn't. So remember that, you know, next time.
Basically using any of your experiences to support you. So whether you're taking a time where it wasn't true, so that the next time your thoughts go off, you can remind yourself, hey, these weren't right those few times. They don't have to be right now. Like, let's bring myself back here.
Definitely. That would have been a way quicker, better way of explaining it than what I just did. Thank you for saying that.
That's all good.
But with intuition, so within a piece then, even though they're kind of one of the same, what can you share with all of us about inner peace? So when things are very chaotic around us and feel very stressful or anxious, I know we've touched on anxiety before, but how can we really cultivate that inner peace? What techniques, tools, home fun can we actually implement for this next week to have more inner peace? So we've obviously know what we've got to do for our intuition and listening to that part of ourselves and our bodies. How can we cultivate inner peace?
I think that
there's no pressure, don't worry.
Yeah, I had
You're only live on a podcast, with everyone relying on you as the coach.
Just in the clouds now. I had a great thought. I was like, this is exactly what I'm going to say.
Has it gone?
And then it left.
Okay.
But unpopular opinion, it's going to be about letting go of control, and it's going to be about surrender. It's going to be about focusing on the things you can control or what you have any involvement in versus what is external, what's outside of you.
Yeah.
And so that is the inner peace, right? It's bringing you back into yourself. So you're in a job and everything's going wrong and you're stressed out. It's really easy to feel stress. It's really easy to be overwhelmed. I need to do this. That thing went wrong. I'm frustrated with this person.
I'm going to get the sack if I don't change it. Yeah.
But when you're in that, then you're focusing more on the negatives and you're not actually able to show up like at even like 50% of your capacity, right? Because you're so caught up in all of that overwhelm.
You're running on overdrive. You're not present. You're not grounded. You're not thinking clearly. You're just up in your head again.
Yeah. And so that surrender and that focus on, okay, what are the things I can control? So I can't control what they said. I can't control that this didn't work out. I can't control that this thing broke or whatever. I can control myself. I can control my work. I can control my breath. I can control like where I'm focusing. What are the things I can do right now to help any of these situations, and bring your full attention to that. That creates this empowered feeling, because all of a sudden you're not feeling like, oh, everything's happening around me that I have no control over. You're like empowering yourself to say, hey, I actually have a lot of control because I can do these things
with how I show up
really well.
So letting go of what you can't control and channeling that energy, using your energy to put it into the parts you can control, which is what thoughts you're believing, how you show up, how you take care of yourself, what action steps you do next to figure it out, whatever that may be. And so to take that further, even let's just play out that does all go wrong. You do get fired from your job, or it does all go horribly wrong, and you make you completely ruin something. To that level, or let's say in a relationship, in any area, how can we also keep that inner peace when things do go wrong and actually stay, like we lose something, or we get abandoned, or we lose the job?
I think obviously that is where it gets a lot trickier. And I feel almost like what I'm going to say, some people are going to be like, but I can't do that. Like, I won't be
and that's fair enough. And it's not always
valid.
applicable maybe to everyone. And some of this conversation will resonate with some more than others in different parts. But give it a go anyway.
I think just in terms of like all the different mindfulness trainings that I've done and studied and stuff in India was like, that is where you have to accept that, there is a higher agenda, the higher power, things are actually working out for your highest good, even though you don't always see it.
Or teaching you something. There's always a lesson.
It's here for a lesson, exactly. And when you come into that, bringing in that little bit of acceptance or surrender, it allows you to still just manage that situation to the best of your ability. So, again, there were countless times in my life where things were really hard or going wrong, and I did play the victim, and I did feel like the world's against me, and
it's all gone wrong,
heavy, and like nothing's ever working out for me.
Yeah.
And from that place, I wasn't able to show up and really do anything, right? I was so consumed by that.
It wasn't working for you.
And then I wasn't able to feel peaceful. I wasn't able to feel in control of myself, and I definitely couldn't hear my intuition or anything because I was just so disconnected. Mm-hmm. So coming to the place of, you know, believing in something more or surrendering to the fact that, you know, what is this here to teach me? What can I take from it? What can I control? Even if that's just controlling, okay, I go look for another job, or I use this time to do something
recalibrate
else,
or study and
heal or whatever. Like, how is this actually happening for me? What can I take from it? And then now from that place, you are actually able to then again move forward with more peace or more sense of calm, I guess.
And have that clarity for action steps and that positivity. So rather than victim mentality or why me, it's then, well, that even though I can't see it right now, even though that was terrible, something is going to work out that I can't see yet. Something, one day I'm going to look back and go, thank goodness I got fired from that job. Thank goodness that guy ended that relationship with me, even though it was the most painful thing ever at the time, because of the beautiful lessons in it, the beautiful growth, and leading you to a better scenario than what you had before. It just takes a bit of time.
Yeah, it takes time, and it's that optimistic mindset, which is why I said, like, some people might not want to accept this, because I know had I listened to this podcast
you'd be like,
8 years ago,
oh my God,
like, shut up,
sod
Kara.
off. Yeah, exactly. Like, not what I want to hear right now.
I'd be like, I don't believe you. I'm going to continue doing this my way.
Yeah.
I'm still frustrated. I'm not happy with these things that have happened. It's not fair.
Yeah.
And that was the place I was in, and that's where, like, honoring where you're at, and it's okay to still grieve those things that you lose. It's okay to be emotional, be upset.
Exactly. It doesn't mean that you're going to avoid the pain. It's going to be painful, and there are, like, I think it's accepting that life has a lot of challenges and has pain. You cannot avoid that, as I've come to find out. No matter what I've done to avoid the pain, go around it or escape it, just sitting with it and really feeling it, going through it, then you can release it, accept it, and then you are freed up for new action steps and calling in better new energy.
So it's really it comes back to choosing yourself too. I think, where no matter what's happening outside of you, if you're choosing yourself, you are choosing the more peaceful path. You're choosing something that's bringing you joy in that moment, or you're choosing to find the lesson in the pain
and see the good.
Choosing the good. So it is, all of that is really like self-love, and it's a choice.
And would you say that's the same as choosing yourself is the same as choosing to trust? Because trust is a choice, right? And we will definitely touch on trust in another episode and go deeper into it. But trust is something that I have learned so much this last year with trust, and that it really is a conscious choice every time to dive in, because there is no guarantee of anything. Nothing is certain. And where my control freak side always wants to control and secure anything, a job, a relationship, what's going to happen in the future, we don't know that. That's just us wanting to have our life in total control, which is impossible,
and it's not peaceful.
It's so stressful.
Exactly,
it's so stressful. So, like, lately choosing to trust, and it is new for me, but so far, like, the moments when I've chosen to just trust that this is going to work out for me, this is absolutely meant to be this way, no matter how painful, and just to surrender, which I've been terrible at my whole life, like the worst surrenderer ever, but now, wow, like I've done it lately, and the peace and like the freedom I felt afterwards, after the pain, was like,
it's so
it's addictive. Like, I want to surrender and trust more.
And I was just gonna say, it feels so hard to do it at first, but the second you do it a few times and you realize how much better you feel, it's then like, I'm like, how do I get this to more people? Because you just finally let go. And as someone who, myself as well, like, recovering overthinker, control person, people pleaser, all of those things, really anxious.
All the kind of more negative, suffering human conditions.
As someone who struggled with all of those things, to then see that really finding peace and being able to just let it go and to just be like,
liberating,
this
isn't
is
it?
where I am, and like, I trust the path, I trust myself. even if something goes wrong, or even if I'm stressed, how can I recenter, bring myself back? What am I choosing, as we said, and then finding that trust. There is no other feeling like it, I don't think. And
you won't know it.
Yeah.
It seems like you won't know it until you do it. And I don't think I've even fully done it yet compared to like what is really out there.
Yeah.
But even just the small things lately that I've chosen to trust or let go of, that feels amazing. And I've resisted for my whole life.
Yeah.
Because I have a control freak issue, and it's like, recovering.
Yeah.
And just when I did it lately, it was like, wow, this is...
You finally breathe.
Finally breathe, yeah. And it was like, this is not as hard. All this resisting for what? This is actually not... Once I did it, it was like, I can let go of all that stuff.
Yeah.
My mind wanted to hold on desperately to all of it, or figure this out, or what happened here. And when I just let it all go, it was amazing. And I know that is easier said than done.
Yeah.
I would have been younger me listening to this going like, it's all well and good for you to say, you know, you haven't been through this, or you are stronger than me, or you've had this help, or I can't do that, I've tried. I would have thought all of those things. And so for anyone that is thinking it's easier said than done, yes, it absolutely is. And I just highly encourage you to try it. Yeah, just keep trying, and eventually it will happen, and you'll realize, wow, it's such a much more beautiful, freeing way to live.
Yeah. And I just want to, like, I almost, if you're open to it, I almost would love for both of us to share a few examples of some of the struggles that we had to surrender from, because I feel like then everyone listening would be like, oh my gosh, because
I would love that.
I've had a lot of clients who were struggling financially, and like that is a huge stress that weighs down, that creates a lack of inner peace. And I know it will be easy for me if I'm sitting like with all this money to be like, oh, just let go, just surrender.
Yeah, it's annoying as anything when someone does that, when it's got it all, everything sorted, and then they're preaching, and, like, and it's
telling
like,
you what to do. But there was a time like earlier this year where I was over $50,000 in debt, no money in my savings account, struggling to pay rent and food. And that was the time where I actually was like, you know what, throw my hands up, I'm gonna surrender and just trust that something's gonna work out, because I've been anxious, overwhelmed, really stuck in this place, scared, fearful, like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen next? Like, so I felt all those feelings, and I was like, all I can do is continue to take aligned action, like trying to obviously earn money. I'm not just gonna sit on the couch and surrender. Like, I still did stuff, but I was like, hey, this is where I'm at, and I'm just gonna sit with it instead of trying to avoid it. And that was one of the most powerful moments of surrender and moving forward. And both of our dads have had really big health issues recently, and that was another one for me as well, of like, there's only so much I could control. So as much as it was stressing and weighing down on me, that was a huge practice of surrender, to just trust that whatever's meant to be will be. I have to step back, focus in on that inner peace, like control what I can control.
Absolutely, yeah. And I know you've got so many, and it will come out over time, like so many situations where I've learnt from you, where initially I was like, she just seems to be so peaceful and nothing affects her. And then I realised, like, the more I've gotten to know you, how much you have been through, and yet you've still showed up like this, which really does give me hope, because you've been through hell and back, you know, and you guys will come to learn more about Cara as we go. But she really has been through, like, it makes me teary, like, such a hard time, and yet you're here and you're so peaceful. And I know you still have your moments, of course, because you are human, and that will never change until you're not human. But right now, like, you're so peaceful and present and love what you do, no matter what challenges you have. And I just find it so inspiring, and you've given me so much hope.
Thank you.
You're tearing up too. Yeah, by the way, pre-warning, there's going to be lots of tears, because I am not overly.
We both are.
Very emotional, sensitive human beings.
Yeah, just all the feels.
Yeah, exactly, all the feels.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And for me, the most recent one is, and again, I sometimes wonder how personal to get, because when other people are involved, but without giving too many details, but kind of more general, went through a breakup recently, as again has been mentioned a few times on this season, on this podcast, and I was really, really struggling with needing to know, like, you know, what exactly has gone on, why did it end, like obsessively thinking and trying to control it all, and literally wondering like everything in the world, thinking and thinking and thinking, is it because I did this, is it because I did that, am I not enough? If I was really enough, then I would be wanted, and just these, or it would have been better, it would have worked out, was it my fault? And just this obsessing, and I mean, I'm not joking, guys, and Cara will vouch for this, I mean completely so in the head, it's ridiculous. I mean, took up my entire day, every day, sleepless nights, amongst other things that were happening in my life.
Yeah.
And
just a very big lack of inner peace.
Yeah,
like, totally consumed by what was going on.
Yeah, what's he thinking? Is it because of this? Do I need to know everything he's thinking, what I did wrong so I can course correct it next time? Did he do this because of this? I need to know so that if I see it in my next partner, I need to watch out for it to protect myself.
Yeah.
Was I unaware?
About this one time, like that's one thing that always came to me was like this one experience that happened, like it could have been years ago. Where it'd be like, is that when this started, or like, did that play a bigger role?
You mean like just to give an example,
like in a relationship or in something like, oh, you know, even I said this thing, or we had this argument, or something, even if it wasn't recent, it was still weighing on me and taking away from that peace or that present moment. Because there's too many pieces of the puzzle that we could focus on.
So many variables
that take us out of a peaceful place.
Absolutely.
And that is life, I think, in general. The challenge is that there is always something. There's always new things happening, new people, new opportunities, things coming and going. Yeah. And how do you maintain centered and grounded no matter what's happening around you?
Exactly. So I ended up, I obsessed for weeks, months, hours, you know. And that was the strangest order to do it in, weeks, months, hours. No, don't just ignore me, I'm dyslexic. So I literally just like, I couldn't let it go. And everyone around me would say, Charlie, it doesn't matter. It's ended. You just need to know that you did your best at the time with what you know, and going forward, you'll just be present to your next relationship, and don't compare it. You'll just be in the moment, bring your control back, exactly, from what you can do, how you can show up, and let the rest go. And I heard it over and over and over from you and from friends and from other coaches, and I could not let it go. I was like, no, but I just need to know so that I'm safe, or I just need to know so I can one more thing,
then I'll be able to,
because then I know that maybe that's unattractive what I'm doing, so I need to know so that I'm not unattractive in the future, or so I don't push the next person away, or whatever it is, right? So I could not let it go. It felt like impossible. And then very recently sat on the beach for about 5 hours and actually just sat there, cried my eyes out, accepted exactly what's happened without being able to change any of it, understand any of it. This has happened, rightly or wrongly, whether it was me, him, this, that, it's happened. I was rejecting reality. I was trying to control it, even though it's done. And I was trying to understand it all. And actually, what is done is done. I decided in that moment, this is killing me. This is ruining my life. This is miserable, this way of thinking. And I literally just cried. And then I really felt into like, it doesn't actually matter. This is, in the grand scheme, it doesn't matter. You don't need to know, because A, there's thousands of variables anyway. You know, and B, whatever happened with this person is going to be so different from the next dynamic and the place I'm in next time and the future man. So there's no point trying to like suss out what went wrong then to apply it to the next one. Like, no, it would be so different. And actually, I did my best in the moment, and there's nothing else to know. It didn't work out. And and it was deeper than that, but when I let it go, I felt, as you know, Cara, I've gone from so miserable, crying and anxious every day, to that moment on the beach was last Thursday, literally shifted to so much more joy, freedom, not needing to know any of it, not needing to know if he's moved on or got with another, partner already, just letting it go and being like, that's it. This is focusing my energy now on what I want to create right now, what I can control.
Yeah.
Calling in the good energy, calling in the next chapter, trusting that I'm doing my best. I'll naturally learn from this, and then see, enjoy.
Yeah.
And see what happens.
Yeah. And there's two huge things that I want to like emphasize that you shared there, which was that you were rejecting reality or fighting reality for a long time, and that's for all of us, that is where a lot of our stresses come from.
Yeah,
resistance. Because we're resisting the reality. We're resisting the present moment. We wish it were something different.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda. We could have changed it. How can we go back and maybe change it? Is there any way we can undo what we did by redeeming ourselves?
Yeah, and it just constantly, that is suffering, right?
Yeah.
That is constantly taking away from our inner peace. So letting go of the need to fight reality and coming to some kind of acceptance for like, this is where I'm at and what can I do with it? What can I make from this? And the second thing you said in terms of releasing is also by doing that, you created space, which is what is going to then allow the intuition to come through and allow everything, because as long as you're consumed and wound up so tightly with all of the variables, all the things that are going on, you aren't able to open up to everything else you want to call in, or the signs, the synchronicities, the things that are meant for you. So by creating that space, that is then what allows, messages to be more clear, ideas to come through more loudly,
and everything has, like, to actually validate that. I have felt so much, it's almost too good to be true. I keep saying to Cara that this can't be right, like all this suffering I had before to suddenly this shift. And don't get me wrong, it was also because I had been through a lot of the pain anyway, and like kind of had obviously cried a lot and grieved a lot. It's not like I just avoided the grieving, but just something shifted, and I feel like things have suddenly come in, amazing opportunities, amazing new human beings, amazing new men have showed up in terms of like, wow, this is, this type of person and possibility is what I would like in the future when I'm ready. This is how I can show up for myself. My focus can be on our stuff, our podcast, our friendships, adventures. And anyway, I just want you guys to know that, hope that example can translate into other areas, but the level of shift is so good. It's so good.
Yeah, I think that's, I appreciate you sharing all of that, because I do feel like that is what that gives the validation of like, we're not just sitting here talking without like, you just surrender, you let go, and everything's going to be beautiful. And
being vague in general, you need to be specific sometimes.
And giving the examples just to show that yes, we have been through hard times as well, and when we chose to surrender in those hard times, it did actually bring more freedom. It paid off. And so that is, again, let's make that some home fun for you guys, of if there's something going on in your present reality right now that's stopping you from having inner peace, how can you step back? Like, how can you lean back and trust and let go of your need to control, your need to fight reality? Like, accept that this is where you are right now in this present moment. It's exactly where you're supposed to be in this present moment, and allow yourself to just like take a deep breath and sit with it. And from that space, then doing whatever you need to do to release or to clear or to call in and listen to your intuition, or call in those next things.
And how you want to be going forward, who you want to become. Exactly. Do I want to become someone that's more empowered, that's able to let go of control, that's able to thrive and enjoy life, or do I want to stay stuck obsessing over things that I can't control anyway?
And then what would it feel like? So which one do I want to be like? And then I'm gonna make a little assumption that most people would be like, oh, I want to feel empowered, I want to feel free, I want to trust. So then imagine and embody what that would feel like. And we'll kind of get into that on next week's episode with manifestation and law of attraction and all of that stuff.
My favorite thing to talk about.
I'm really excited for that one. But really, embodying, if this is how I want to be, if I no longer want to feel weighed down and stressed by all these things, I want that inner peace, what would it feel like? And what would I be doing today to help cultivate that, and then taking those actions so you can start calling it all in.
Yay! Oh, boo! What what a good episode. That was so yummy. Yay. I really hope that you guys like found that beneficial and found the examples helpful, and we'll continue to keep giving examples. And if you again, always feel free to write into us to our email address or DM on Instagram if you've got any specific blocks or questions and you just need a bit of guidance from Cara, for instance.
Slide into the DMs.
Exactly. So that was so great to talk about and share with you all, and cannot wait to see you next week for an episode all around manifestation and dreams and laws of attraction and the good juju, creating that magic.
Yeah, we'll see you there. Keep cultivating that inner peace.
Yeah. Bye guys. Thanks for listening.